Okay, and you're seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep. All right, so we're at the top of the hour, just to honor everybody's time. Just a quick welcome to anybody who's here. Thanks for coming. Welcome to the June installation, I don't know, the June meeting for Women in Teams. And we're excited to have Cathy Dew here to give us an overview of branding in SharePoint and Viva Connections, which is really exciting. I love working on this with clients. We love all the really cool things it can do. I think it's a little bit of an understated feature and tool set that I don't think a lot of people even realize all the neat things you can do with it. So I'm really excited to see this session. I know everybody's gonna be popping here over the next few minutes, but I just wanted to go ahead and hand it off to you and let you go. Whenever you're done, we can just have a few minutes for any questions that people want to have. In the meantime, if you need anything, post it in chat. I'll kind of try to keep an eye on it, and otherwise, take it away. And you're on mute.
Of course, Teams muted me. I was saying, please feel free to put questions in chat as we go along as well, and that way I can come back and answer any of them that I miss. But we will get started because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the space. So as Sharon said, we're going to talk about branding and SharePoint and Viva Connections. My name's Cathy Dew. I'm a product manager at Microsoft on the SharePoint team. You can always find me on most socials as CatPaint1. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in because we have a lot to talk about. So we're going to first talk a little bit about just general branding. Then we're going to talk about the new brand center with fonts. We're going to talk about color, and then a little bit around content with images and layout. And so a lot of fun things to go through. So when we first start thinking about branding for SharePoint and Viva Connections, if we look at SharePoint as that first starting point, there are several things that we consider to be kind of those core elements of branding for this being in a brand application versus a content space. And you saw that a little bit broken up into that agenda as well. But when you look at this, you're talking about things like logos and navigation, your colors, your themes, your custom fonts. And then in content, it's really all about your content and imagery. So when we start looking at that and diving in, when we look at logos and navigation to start out with, there's basic 3 tiers of logo and navigation that are SharePoint or Viva Connections aligned. So the first of these is your home site logo, or using the default home icon, and your global navigation that appears in your left rail of your modern sites for this app bar. This is set up in your home site, and this is also shared across Viva Connections and SharePoint as well. That global navigation is shared. Then we move into, if your site is a hub, you get an additional hub navigation and that hub logo. And that's set up at the root of the hub. So that site that's the top of my hub, and then it's shared across all of the sites that are associated to the hub. So you get an icon and a title and then a navigation component here. And then the third level of this is your site level. So this is that local site. And this gives you a logo, a name, and navigation here as well, specific to that particular area. So you've got kind of the global, the grouping, and then the local. So you have 3 different areas. And when you look at this, you'll notice that we recommend people to think about the logo application here, because you could end up in a space where you have the same icon in kind of 4 different places. So you really want to think about how you're using your logos or your icons, because there is here, and while we're not talking about it in this one, there is that tenant organization level branding in the suite bar that's managed through the M365 Admin Center at the top there, where you see the logo and Contoso Electronics next to SharePoint. So you could end up in a space where you have 4 icons all being the same. And I always like to tell a fun little story on this. At Microsoft, we actually ran into the location of where our hub and our local were going to use the same icon. And so we actually chose to make a different choice there so that it wasn't the same icon just stacked on it and people knew where they were. So it's fun to think about that and think about how you're going to utilize those icons to give people a grounding as to where they are. Then if we jump into like where we are today, in today's world for SharePoint and Viva Connections, they have the same themes space shared across both of them. So if I create a custom theme in SharePoint, that same custom theme is available for my Viva Connections experiences as well. Now, if you're using a home site as well as Viva Connections, noting that the theme is shared across the two of them. So if you were to change the theme in, say, SharePoint, it will change the color theme used in Viva Connections as well, and vice versa. So if you change it in your Viva Connections experience through Change the Look, it will update the color scheme of your SharePoint home site as well. So it's fun to kind of look at how you're going to utilize themes across the two. Now, the piece that everyone kind of wants to talk about a bit is the all-new SharePoint Brand Center. So this is something that we talked about for the first time in May of 2023. And then now we're glad to say that the SharePoint Brand Center has begun shipping to everyone. I believe that it's going out to everyone today, but it should be available early June. So by next week, everyone who has the SharePoint Brand Center should have it in their tenant. There's a few things to note here. If you are an admin in your environment and you've been saying, but I don't see it yet, you do have to do some initial setup in the M365 Admin Center and what is called the Mac to set that up. The reason for the Brand Center requiring this is it does require public CDN, which does mean that we have some limitations around Brand Center for usage in things like GCC environments and such where that public CDN is not supported. And so additional support for CDN support will come later for this. But for now, anywhere that you could utilize that, it will be available. And you do that setup. It's a one-time setup to agree to that. The Brand Center today is focused around custom fonts, but you'll see on our public roadmap, we have more things coming for the Brand Center later this year. For custom fonts, we do have some file type restrictions here and a recommendation that you do use that web open format font, which is a special web compression for fonts. Depending on your licensing, if you have your own organization font, you may or may not have a web open format font version, or you may or may not be able to convert your existing TrueType or OpenType font to that. So we do recommend that you pay attention to your licensing there. All four web font types will work. It's just going to be ideal for that web open format font, especially that WAF2 format, which is the most up-to-date version of that. But you can use any of these. They all work in your SharePoint sites and in Viva Connections. So when we talk about the Brand Center, a lot of times people want to know, how should I be thinking about this? Who's doing what? So when we look at the Brand Center designates a particular site in your tenant to be that Brand Center. Where is that? How do I know what that is? So today, the Brand Center site, if you were using organization assets in the past in your organization, that is the same site that will be your Brand Center. So it will identify that through that Microsoft 365 Admin Center setup, and that will become the Brand Center. That's where you will enter into the Brand Center app. And so if you are someone that needs to configure fonts or in the future themes and other pieces, you simply need to be a site owner of that particular site. That gives you access to the Brand Center. So it makes it a little simpler from a permissions perspective. It's about understanding it's a site. I need to get to the app that's a part of that site. I need to be a site owner of that site. So it gives you a little bit of understanding as to what you're looking at. Now, we often talk about this as brand managers doing these types of things. Brand managers can be any number of people, whether it's a dedicated brand manager, it might be a designer, someone from corporate communications, it might be somebody from marketing, it might just be someone in your organization who understands how the brand should be utilized. So taking it and making it that site owner really makes it easy for us to understand how to give people access to that Brand Center app. Now, once you create those items in that Brand Center app, they then become available for any site owner through Change the Look. So it's kind of looking at app specific for one particular set of site owners, then going to all site owners through Change the Look. And then your authors or creators, the people that are creating content, that are editors in your space, they have availability for these resources through the different web parts and components as defined through that Brand Center app. So it kind of takes me through those levels of kind of defining it once, managing it once, making it available to everyone. So let's look at the new Brand Center app. I think that it's always easiest to understand it when we're looking at it. I'm going to start here with this quick screenshot to help you understand a little bit of the fundamental pieces of the Brand Center app. So when we look at the Brand Center app, you're going to see kind of two sections of the app. One section here that you see as Manage Your Brand, and the second section that's Apply Your Brand. In the Manage Your Brand section, you'll see that brand font library. This is where you're managing those types of organization assets that could be shared. So while currently today, the SharePoint Brand Center is focused on SharePoint and Viva Connections, you can imagine the world where this is available for everyone. So maybe Office is using this and you want your fonts to be available for Office. You want images to be available across the space. You want colors to be available across the M365 space. So that top level is kind of managing those tenant-wide assets. What would I want to be available for any product? And then below that, in the Apply Your Brand section, you'll see things like SharePoint and Viva Connections. In the future, you might see items like Clipchamp and Teams and other products come into the space. But here, this is where you're going to go in and configure the actual usage of those tenant organization assets that you manage in the section above. So for how SharePoint might use fonts is going to be different than how Word uses fonts or how PowerPoint uses fonts. So this is kind of setting it up for like I manage those one time, make it available to everything. And then the next, it's how does that product in particular use that particular asset. So today you see brand fonts, and then you see font packages in SharePoint and Viva Connections. So let's kind of look at this and talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to jump into a demo because I always think that seeing this in action is always a little bit easier than just going into it and trying to understand it. So here is my Brand Center app. I've entered into this in two ways. I can get a link directly to it as the admin when I initially set it up, email that link out, people can navigate directly to this app. Or if I go to the site that it's contained in through that site settings gear, just like always where I would go to access Change the Look, you'll see a Brand Center app entry point through there as well. But once I land here, you see those two different sections. So you see my brand fonts, and then you see my SharePoint and Viva Connections space. So I'm going to go into SharePoint. These are shared the same across SharePoint and Viva Connections today. So if you create a font package for SharePoint, that same font package is available for Viva Connections. So I can come in here and you can see I've got a space here for my font packages, but this isn't all of them. I see that I actually have 10. So I want to see all of my font packages, and I can come in here and I can see all of the different font packages that I've created. If we wanted to create a new font package, so when you create these, once you've uploaded your fonts, which I'm not going to show you that, it's your typical SharePoint document library upload experience. But once you upload those fonts into that brand font library, we go through and do a little bit of analysis on those fonts so that we know what that font family is. So say you upload 6 different files for Arial because you want regular, you want bold, you want italic, you want all of those different ones. We're only going to showcase that Arial once so that you know you've got Arial as an option, or you've got, say, Lobster as an option or Roboto as an option so that you can go that way. But we go and show you those styles in the next step. So here, if I want to go through and create this, we've broken it down into a display font and a content font, and then giving you some information about what those mean. So display fonts are sometimes those more decorative fonts, things that you might want to use kind of sparingly, but to uniquely represent your brand. So if we come in here and let's pick maybe the serif hand here, you can see that very much is something that's a bit more decorative versus say an Arial where I have a more content font. The main body text of my site would want to be in something like this, more versatile, easy to read. So if I then go into the next space, so I've kind of picked those initial fonts, and then I come into this next space, I'm now going to go through and assign my fonts for how I want them to be used. And in this place, we have 4 different font slots. So you've got your title, and again, we're giving you some guidance as to what you might want to use where. So here, if we were to pick serif hand, and then you can see from there, we uploaded 3 different styles here. So I have black, bold, and extra black. I'm going to go ahead and pick bold there. And then I can do the same for all of these. So say if I come through and do a headline, maybe I want that to be black. Body, I'm probably going to pick from my Arial font styles here. Most likely I'm going to pick regular, and you'll see that guidance there to pick this in your normal or regular style. Interactive is all of my links throughout the product. So what will I want to use here? I'm going to go ahead and use Arial here, and then I'm going to make this one black and kind of pick through. So you can kind of see what you might want to do. And as you do this, you'll see it tells me which ones I'm using and which space I'm using them in. And then when I go to the next step here where I'm ready to name it, at this point, I have not only that initial preview of the package, but I also have unlocked the tabs for the preview of SharePoint and Viva Connections. And so if I go into SharePoint, it's going to come through and then it's going to apply that font package that I've just created. So all of those stylings here in that preview. So I can see that serif hand here and what I've designated across. And then I can do the same for Viva Connections. And so it's going to go through and apply that font package. And I can start to see where those fonts that I mapped out will work and show up in both SharePoint and Viva Connections before I create it, before I make it available for people. Then I can come through and name it, and then you'll see a tag here for visible. So say maybe your organization changes your font in 6 months. You have that initial font package that you created. You could come in and make that font package not visible. And what happens when you do that is it no longer is available in Change the Look. You still have it in your list of font packages, but it's not available in Change the Look. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one serif Arial, just so I know what it is. And then I'm going to make it not visible. And so when I do this and I save it, it will show up in my list of font packages. So if I scroll down, here's that serif Arial, and you see that visual indicator that it is not visible. So when I'm going to apply these font packages through Change the Look, I will see all of the ones that are visible, but I will not see the ones that are not visible. So if we look at this list, we should be seeing things in our dropdown like Life's a Peach and Just Script It, but I should not see MVP Summit Awesome and Serif Arial. So if I jump over to a site and I want to go look at this, I'm going to go into Change the Look. And so when I go to Change the Look and I utilize that font preview and I want to come here, all of those font packages that I've created in the Brand Center app are available in the From My Organization section of this dropdown. But you notice I don't see that MVP Summit Awesome, and I don't see that serif hand and Arial here. And so I don't see those, but I can pick from any of these different options. And you can see we have given you that note here. This is my home site. So what I adopt here is going to be used in my Viva Connections experience as well. So we have given you that headlight here. So if I come in and I say was to switch to say simple neon, it's going to go through and it's going to preview that before I've actually applied it, just like for a theme. So you could see here in the space behind it, I can see where that changed the fonts. And I could then say, yes, that's the one I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save, which is going to fully apply. Just like for change the look, when I do this with themes and preview, that is how it works. And then if I go over to Teams, and I'm going to need to do that quick refresh because it was loaded up before. And we're, so setting things up for me. But when I come in here, you'll see that same font package has been applied over here to my Viva Connections space as well. And then if I were to come in here and change that or want to change that, it would be, again, going into change the look here. And then it's those exact same font options that we just saw before through SharePoint are available here in Viva Connections. So it's a unique connection across the two spaces here, but that gives you the quickest overview of how the Brand Center app works and how custom fonts work across SharePoint and Viva Connections. And so let's jump back over and keep talking about some other pieces here. So when you're looking at fonts, I just want to highlight, you'll see some things in like that font, the Brand Center app, things that maybe aren't the best types of fonts to utilize. I had some that have color in them. Those are variable fonts that actually have a color in them, but using that may not be the best in my internet portals because I might use different themes. It might be hard for people to read. So it's really thinking about what type of font you want to use, how you want to use it, and how your users are going to be using your sites. So you can use, there was many years ago, the concept that only a sans serif font should be utilized on the web. So those are things like Arial and Sego and all of these different fonts. And so you were kind of leaving behind that serif font, which is more like Times New Roman, Georgia, some of those. That is no longer true. So both of these have been found to be readable and consumable by users. But it is true that sans serif do provide just a slight readability improvement for users. So if you have lots of big, dense blocks of text, some of those sans serif fonts are going to be an improvement. And things like those decorative fonts, script fonts, or anything that's more decorative should be used sparingly. So thinking about those in that top spot for like headline, where maybe it's being used for things like my site title or my hub title, my web part headers, but not for all of my body content. So just kind of thinking through how you want to use your fonts is always something that's important when you're thinking about creating these for SharePoint and Viva Connections. Now, let's talk a little bit about color. And for this, we all are pretty familiar with where we are today when it comes to being able to manage themes. It's a very manual and developer almost focused admin level experience. I go out and I might use that theme designer tool to do that from Fluent, and then I want to apply it, I have to go run PowerShell to get that to show up. So I want to talk about what the next vision for themes is, and you'll be able to see a little bit of where we're going for this. Now, this item is out and available on our roadmap, and you'll start to see how the Brand Center is going to evolve from here. So you saw the Brand Center app have fonts. Now you'll see colors starting to appear. So again, being able to create that list of brand colors that are going to be available for everything across it. And then in those apply sections, you'll see themes showing up alongside font packages. And so what does that actually look like? So here, when I come in and do that, I'll be able to go in and add my own colors. So say I don't want to have to, I want to create 6 themes and I want to have one color that's maybe shared across all of those, my Relic Cloud teal or something consistent. And so I want to put those in. I don't want to have to type it every time. So I can simply go through and populate that brand color list. And then when I go into the SharePoint space, I want to create that theme. So no longer will you be having to go out and run PowerShell or create this via code. You'll be able to create those. You'll be able to pick from that brand color list, or if you want one that's not a part of that brand color list, you'll be able to add it. I'll also be able to say if my theme is dark. So if I've used a dark background color versus a light background color, I can say dark. Same as before, I'm going to name it, I'm going to mark it as visible or not. And then once I do that, that's going to show up in that theme list. And then as you create those theme lists, those are what will be available in Change the Look. Now, if you have created from your organization themes today and installed those via PowerShell, those are not going to appear in the Brand Center app to start with, but they will still show up and Change the Look. So there will be a little bit of dichotomy, and we're hoping that people will embrace the Brand Center app to kind of recreate some of those and remove them via PowerShell so that they can manage them via the app moving forward. But so you'll see that Brand Center is evolving and continuing to evolve for SharePoint and Viva Connections. Again, these themes that are created in the Brand Center app will be utilized across both SharePoint and Viva Connections consistently. So you'll see those show up in both places, again, just like you do today. But giving it a little bit of an evolution, making it easier for you to create and manage your themes moving forward. And then beyond that, there's another piece on our roadmap, and I don't have a walkthrough of that, but I'm going to describe it for you, of where we talk about, sometimes we have people that create a site that's maybe for an event or for something in particular, and they want their own unique theme for it. They want it to have a different color scheme. Maybe it's about a holiday party or something that's happening. And it doesn't need to use one of the organization themes or fonts. It may want to be something a little bit unique, stand out. So you'll be able to create a site-specific or experience-specific font package or theme in the future. And you can see a hint to this here in that Change the Look experience. You'll see kind of a from this site, from my organization, from Microsoft set of sections. So anything that's created by that site owner for that site is only available for that site versus what you've created through the Brand Center app being available in the From My Organization or what's been provided by Microsoft in the From Microsoft. So there's a little bit of expanding the way that people can create this. Now for fonts, in particular, they will only be able to utilize the From Microsoft fonts or the fonts that you have uploaded from your organization to create font packages. Fonts are code, and so we're not allowing anyone to be able to upload their own font here, but they will be able to utilize what you've done and added, as well as the From Microsoft fonts to create font packages. Themes, they will have a bit of expansion as they will be able to use colors that they pick outside of your brand color list so that they can get those color constants, changes that they want. So from here, let's talk a little bit about content and images and layout and how this really helps to update and provide different consistency when it comes to that look and feel of your sites. So in today's world, you have a lot of options, and you'll see these options continuing to expand. So in today's world, you have site templates, page templates, section templates. You can set section backgrounds. You have all of this. So you have ways to get started using a template to maybe get started. But then as you're creating content, we have both a set of new page authoring capabilities as well as new web parts and updates to current web parts. And then you want to think about how you're using images or other web parts to break up those large blocks of content. People don't want to read a page that's just all content. It's hard on the eyes. And so how can we do that? And then what tools can help you to author or create content where allowed? So let's take a look at some of these updated features. And so with this, we'll come through and let me go back. I think it jumped ahead. get the video to play. Sometimes they don't like to play right away. So in here, what you'll see is the section backgrounds. And so being able to pick from these predefined sets of section backgrounds, but maybe what you want isn't there and you want to use your own section background image. And so here I'm able to go through and add my own image and set that up. And then from there, once I've added my own image, I can update with a few of the more settings to say I want it to scale. I want to put that overlay color over it. And then how do I want to adopt that? And then you can see where I could go through and set a focal point. And it goes through that super fast. So I'm going to back that up just a little bit so you could see this. This is one that's super interesting. So if I'm doing an advanced adjustment here, and I want to go in and update, say, that focal point. One of the great things in this tool that's been created is that I'm previewing not just how it looks in the current space, but you can see those different viewpoints, those breakpoints in that crop space when you're editing images. So I could see how it's going to look in all of those different places, which is also going to give me a hint as to how this might look on, say, a tablet or a mobile view. And so I can kind of start to see a little bit from this advanced editing experience how this is going to make it easier for me to work with images and make that a better experience for my users as they're consuming that content. So you can see that goes through and kind of really customizes how that looks and what that countdown timer web part on top of that section looks like. And so it really makes it a really unique and nice experience to have section background behind it and then the same web part using that same image on top of it. And it really makes it feel a bit cohesive across the two. And so you can start to see a little bit of that there. So let's go ahead to the next slide. So when you're looking at that, or maybe wanting to use images, we have a set of stock images. So this really helps you to tell visual stories by being able to pick from a set of stock images. Acknowledging the fact that it is difficult to find the same stock image time after time. Trust me, we hear that. We were talking to the team that actually manages that feature to try to help it. My favorite story, I was looking for a stock image that I had used previously, and it was a set of paper airplanes that were like launching into the sky. And I told this team, I said, what would you think I had to look for to find this image of paper airplanes? And they were like, airplane. And I was like, no, I actually had to search for paper. And like that didn't make sense. So they're definitely looking at how to continue to make stock images better, as well as we have our organization asset libraries. So this is through that your organization in the picker, where you're setting up and creating your own curated set of images in your now Brand Center site. And so you're running that PowerShell to create those org asset libraries and managing your images and logos there. So if we look at that, let's go actually look at this with some demo because there's some fun pieces here. So I'm going to switch over to a site and we're going to play around with it. So here, this is a fun little site for an event called the Electric Lobster. And so let's play around a little with it here. Now, when I go to this, do you see anything here that maybe you have not been able to do before? So I did not go and play the video for that because I can actually demo it for you live. So here, if I come in and I edit this page, this section at the top of the page is utilizing our new flexible layout components. So in this, I can move these all around and it's using that flexible grid. So if I select it, you'll see I can move things around. So I'm no longer stuck to the predefined grids as needed. And so I can come in and adjust these items as I need to. So this is something that we are really excited about, this component of flexible layouts and being able to give you the ability to really kind of customize how your content looks and how your layout is. Now, I will say that this is not a section that we think everyone needs to use. So it is a new section type. So if I were to come in here and add a section, what you'll see is I still have those predefined layout sections, 1 column, 2 column, 3 columns, because some people don't need to be trying to like figure out where the content goes, and they just need those predefined sections that we had in the past. But the flexible layout section is something that we're really excited to be introducing. I believe this is on the roadmap for sometime later this year and maybe preview, but it's something that you'll be able to start utilizing to make your content a lot more rich and visual. And then as well as that, we have other things that are out now as well, or rolling to people as well. Those are things like our image shapes. So being able to take an image and make it a different shape. So to make it square or to make it a hexagon, to give that visual interest to your page. So not just having it be that flat square or rectangle, being able to make them different shapes as you go along. So these are some of those. And then you'll see things here like this is our text. Our text is utilizing the custom font here. And so if I was to come in and select the text, different stylings between whether it's heading 2, 3, 4, or my normal, that's going to use those different pieces that we set up as a part of that font package. So here, as I switch from normal text to heading, you see I set up that particular font slot to utilize that more decorative font. So I'm able to utilize that in these as well as the default of that decorative font being utilized for my web part headers. So I'm able to really kind of come through here and start to customize a little bit more. And then what you'll also see as I'm going through this is I've got my new content pane. And so if you haven't seen this before, over on the right, I now have, instead of having to always come in and find these little hover add sections, I have everything that I might need right here on the right-hand side for me to utilize. So I could come in and say, I want to add a text web part here. And I simply drag that text web part from that content pane onto the page. So it makes it a lot easier to author my content as well. I'm not having to hover and go in and find that. And you can see as I start adding things, it's going to give me more suggested web parts, or I can go and see all, and it pulls that full toolbox there. As well as this is how I come in and I see my section backgrounds by coming in here and going to the properties of that section, and I could change the layout, or I could pick from my different section backgrounds or add my own. So it's really putting some flexibility here. Some of the other things it's doing is looking at my site, looking at the assets stored in my site, and giving me suggestions of images or video media that I might want to use there. It's giving me those suggestions of section templates, different things that I might want to use there. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add a new section, and I'm actually going to pull it from my section templates, and I'm just going to add that. And so when I come in here and I say want to add some images, I'm just going to drop those images in. And add it as a new one. Excuse that. So I'm just going to kind of drop some of those in, or I'm going to browse in and find an image. So we'll go over to stock and let's see if we can find anything by searching for lobster. I don't think we will. So maybe we'll just look up sea and find some type of fun sea creature or water to use. So we'll go through and pull in a few images. And so let me look from my site, and maybe we want to use this icon, put that in as the third one. And then we want to put some text in. So I'm just going to put some sample text in each of these so that we can see. And again, if I come through and say select heading 2, it's going to pull that together. And the reason I'm populating this out is to show you another neat feature that will be coming. So if I were to say, come in and pull these, and I want to, maybe I don't like this layout, I'm not in love with it, I want to try something else. One of the other things that will be coming later this year, again, all focused on helping to make authoring content easier. Over in my content pane, I will have design ideas, and design ideas is going to come through and take a look at the content that I have in my section and suggest different layouts that I might want to utilize. So here it's suggesting maybe to use a different section background or to change that layout up. and it's going to go through and refresh those every so often to give me different options. But then it's going to say maybe you want to have it be more like this. So it's going to give you some curated layout options and some different things to make creating content easier, because not everyone is a designer, and sometimes people just want that easy button. So just like in PowerPoint with PowerPoint slide design ideas, SharePoint will be getting design ideas as well. So currently that works for text and images, and I think that'll be expanding in the future. But being able to go through and easily curate and pull things through, see different options as they're utilized, and give people some flexibility when it comes to putting together their sites and their content. So this has been kind of a whirlwind of branding. And so kind of show you a lot of options when it comes to SharePoint and Viva Connections, things like the image shapes, the section backgrounds, the flexible layouts. All of these things are things that we are really excited about, making it easier for people to create content, to use their organization assets. And so with this, I'm going to hop back over and I'm going to show you two other places that are also working with the Brand Center to try to help make content creation easier and stay a bit with your organization. And it gives us a little bit of co-pilot flavor into this conversation as well. So one of these is working with your organization templates. So today we have template libraries as part of the organization assets piece. And in that you could put, say, your PowerPoint template that you want to use from your organization. The PowerPoint team is actually working with that same asset library to use Copilot to do this, so that I could go in and have Copilot create an entire presentation using that organization template. So I'm going to actually show you a quick video of this so you can see it working. So when I come in and I'm going to go and create a new presentation, I'm going to pick it from that template and I'm going to say create. And then I'm going to use Copilot there in PowerPoint, and I'm going to tell it to create a new presentation. And I'm going to actually tell it to create it from this Word document that I already have. So I'm going to go through and pick that Word document that I want. Now I want that kind of walking deck, that overview. So it's going to go through and it's going to use that Word document. It's going to Copilot's going to investigate it, and then it's going to create slides. It's going to tell me what it's creating, but it's going to create them using that organization template. So now I didn't have to write those slides. I didn't have to go out and pick which slide layouts there. It gives me that, but I can also go through and use Designer to continue to edit that. And again, that's a lot using your organization template. So Designer is going to use the different layouts in my organization template as well. So you'll see all of these have that North Wind logo on them. So it's all of the different slide layout options that are available as a part of my organization template. But I can use Copilot to create the entire presentation from a Word document or have it created automatically. So it just gives me a little bit of option for making content creation easier. And again, staying with some of those brand assets, some of those organization assets. And this again is powered through that template organization asset library. So, and that's great, but one of the other things that we know as well is, like, if I go through and I create my brand asset images and I want to use those, so this is how PowerPoint and Copilot are working to use your organization asset libraries to let you create, to go through and ask Copilot to give me an image, and it's going to pull from your organization images. So here I'm going to go in and I'm going to ask it to add an image, an enterprise image, which is going to pull that out from my organization asset library. And it's going to come through and it's going to look at all those different images in my organization asset library. And then it's going to propose those. And so it's going to pull the different options that are a warehouse from my brand, my organization asset library, and then I'm going to be able to use those as a part of my slide. So you can see some of this innovation coming into PowerPoint. You can imagine how this will come into other spaces like SharePoint and Viva Connections and other spaces as well. But this is some of that kind of co-pilot with your organization assets, just to give you a little taste of what is available. So with that, I'm going to encourage you to go out and try the Brand Center if you have not already. Like I said, I believe that it is maybe even today. I'm kind of waiting for some of that news from my team, but I should be by next week at the very latest. Everyone should have access to the SharePoint Brand Center. So you'll be able to utilize custom fonts. And then that work that you saw for themes will be coming later this year. And so you'll see more things coming into the Brand Center. And then if you are looking at how you want to create your sites or update your sites, we do have a new SharePoint Web UI kit available through Figma that lets you go through and kind of prototype with a lot of different web parts. It's got templates and it's got guidance for how you can add your images or customize with your colors to be able to see what your site might look like in Figma before you even go build it. So if you need tools like that or need to be able to see some of those pieces, the Figma kit is a really great tool for that. And so again, what's available today, you could do that with images and templates through the organization asset library. So I need to update this as now Brand Center is available as well. But custom fonts, I should mention, it works in SharePoint and Viva Connections, and it also works with a SharePoint framework today. So you can go through and update your custom solutions to use custom fonts as well. And then, like I said, those new themes and being able to create some of these items specifically for a single site will be coming later this year. So that is the fastest run through of everything new and next when it comes to branding for SharePoint and Viva Connections, and some of how we're starting to make content authoring easier for people with flexible layouts and images and section backgrounds and design ideas and all of the fun things. So yeah, I see some hands, and then let's see if we have some questions. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know if Sharon's still here. Sharon, are you here to help with questions and things? I can't see everything.
Yeah. So I see Erin has her hand up.
Yeah, hi. Had a couple of questions for you, Cathy.
Absolutely.
How did you set your or define what your H1, H2 styling was in your SharePoint pages to be a specific font, style, header, etc.?
Yeah, so let me show you how that is. So that comes through this title, headline, body, and interactive styling as a part of that font package.
So it's the headline?
So if I come in and look at this, yeah, so let me go back to the create new, because that's where we really pull that. So when you're looking at this, I'm just going to pick two just so it lets me move forward. When I'm looking at this, title is really for things like site title, hub title, those headers. Headline is my H2, H3, H4. So this is used in a variety of places. So it's not exclusive to that, which is why we call it headline and not everything else. But if you do set headline as that, that will set the H2, H3, H4 in your text web part to utilize that font.
Can you define separate fonts for H2, H3, and H4?
Not currently.
Oh, okay. So you really only pick, so you can't pick a separate, I want this to be this font color, and that you're not at that level of detail yet.
Not at that level of detail yet. Now, when I'm here and I'm editing in this, so say if I wanted to use this font, but I want it to be a different size or color, you still have to do that manually by changing it and then picking a different color. But we don't have that type of granularity in the font package yet. It is something that we hope to get to in the future, but we needed to go through and make all of the different web parts and components take custom fonts to start with. Yeah, so we started with a general definition, and then we'll keep continuing to add to this in the future. So don't think that what you have now with custom fonts is all you will ever get. We do know that people want to have that level of granularity where you can say, I want H2 to be this font with this color always. So do know that things like that, or, you know, hearing that feedback is great so that we can continue to help try to prioritize those things. But for now, you can do it in kind of a little bit of a workaround by going through and picking one and then changing it, sizing and color, but we're not able to define those yet.
Okay, a couple of other questions on this section backgrounds and for the stock images. Are you going to be incorporating Microsoft Designer so that you can not be limited to the ones that are kind of provided out of the box?
Yeah, so right now you can do, and I believe this is coming soon if you don't have it already, but you'll see these background ideas in section background today, and then you'll see an add background section come in, and that button will let you pick from an image that you've done, from the stock images, from your organization asset images. And so I'll be able to pick those in the future to be able to come in and say, I want to have, you know.
But you can't integrate directly to Designer from there? You would have to do that somewhere else and then bring that image, save that image and then bring that in?
Yes.
Okay.
It's something that we would love to do. It's just it's not quite ready for that integration yet, but I think that it will come in the future.
Okay, and you already answered my questions about Copilot. I just wanted to make sure that the brand center is coming in on top of the organizational asset library. So if you have an asset library, that's pretty much your location for the brand center.
Yes. So if you have organization asset libraries in your organization today, the site where those organization asset libraries is where your brand center will be.
Okay.
Just to make it easier, because if you're managing images for the organization, it's the same person usually that would manage the rest of it.
The next question I would really ask is, are you going to bring that image curation kind of experience from the org asset library into the brand center?
That is the goal. I do not have a timeline for it, so that's why you don't see us talking about that, but it is centralized in the same site today. But we ideally would love to be making improvements to those organization asset libraries, and when we do, they will most likely come into the Brand Center app itself, so that you have one app that you're going to manage all of those assets. And so do know that that is something that we want to do. I just don't have a timeline for it. We wanted to get themes in there and the color, and then what we're going to do to give you more colorful themes, things like that, into this space first. So images, we have a way to manage those today, but yes, we do ideally want them in that app, and that's why we created the app in the same site that those are currently managed in.
I had one more question, then I'll let other people talk. I'm really sorry, guys. But for the in the brand center, you had talked about the roles inside the brand center. Are you envisioning eventually having more than one like content creator type role? Because I have a world in enterprise where we need some content creators need to have access to some levels of things. Other content creators should get other levels of things. Is that coming?
So I don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
It is something that I'll definitely take that feedback back to the team. I know that there has been some requests for things like, I want to, as a site owner or maybe as a brand manager, for say a set of themes or fonts, or how I'm applying that. I don't want them to be able to have, say, a color picker and pick their own colors and things like that. So I think there are some governance pieces that are being discussed around different items here, but I don't know if that involves a new type of creator or just some types of governance that maybe the site owner or the brand manager gets to set for either their site or for that brand asset that's being applied to the site.
Okay, thank you.
But I do think some things will come. I just don't know if it's a new type of user or a different way of implementing.
I'm thinking, because we have corporate communicators which get different rights than, like, you know, a bog average standard content creator, right?
Yeah, I hear you, and it's definitely feedback that I'll take back to the team as they're looking at how they want to implement some of those, that maybe there's a need for something like that.
I'd have one other one, which is just to say with Viva Amplify kind of on the horizon as a corporate communicator tool, it would be good that if it could tap into the brand center to have that flow properly.
Yeah, and we're certainly talking to the Viva Amplify team. There's a lot of things at play here. You know, we're looking at a lot of different things. Like currently, if I create a news post and it's in a site that uses a custom font, that font wouldn't show up in the email, things like that. So we're I might be creating content through Amplify, but publishing it into
the
multiple SharePoint sites that have different themes, different fonts. How do I know what that is?
Which one goes?
We're definitely all connected and talking about this. So I think you'll continue to see improvements happening across the spaces. So definitely keep that feedback coming for us so that we know if we're hitting the right things or talking.
Interesting. Did I lose Cathy, or is that just me?
I think she just, nope, I think she just froze.
Okay.
She made it all the way through the entire session. At least it was at the Q&A when we're
absolutely
having her freeze.
Hopefully she'll get back, but this has been a great session. I added a couple links in there, but I really love seeing all the exciting things coming to SharePoint. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. If you guys have any other questions, pop them in chat. I'm just going to kick her out real quick of the meeting so that she can come back, and maybe that'll kind of force restart it. Maybe she could pop back in for just one more minute. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. If you have questions, pop them in chat. That way she'll be able to see them. If you need anything, you can always follow up with her. We look forward to seeing you guys next month. We're actually starting to get some stuff nailed down for who's presenting over the next few months. So hopefully we'll be able to start getting ahead of that, and hopefully in the next few months start giving you previews of who's going to come month to month, getting a little bit more organized around that. So anybody need anything else, pop it in chat. Otherwise, have a fantastic afternoon and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.